Say you dear session. Meow, meow. Hi, everybody, and thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It's not a TED Talk, it's a Meow Talk. Thank you to our good friends at PLF for having me and for setting up this space and allowing us to talk about and find ways to practice our art, even in the time of COVID. My name is Sam the Saber, or Sam Stevens. I am one of the several humans behind Sunset and Chill, which is a Washington, D.C. based event. We seek to provide a safe space for flow and fire artists to practice their art in a safe and inspirational environment. Um, we haven't been doing any events for a while, but nobody is. I've been spitting fire since 2015. I have been very lucky to perform with the likes of the DC-based Fire Conclave Revolutionary Motion. I've produced and done some shows with a smaller group called Peculiarity Productions. Most recently, I am joined a fire troupe based in DC and Frederick called Luciole Liberation. Some of you may know, mi familia. And I'm also considered extended family in PLF, who are a bunch of wonderful human beings, half cat, half human. And very proud to have been able to do some events with them and glad to be doing this here tonight. I'm going to be talking about fire circle management, what I'm calling spin the spinners. I often joke with my friends who are choreographers and troop leaders and even DJs that one of the coolest tricks in fire spinning and performance is getting a bunch of spinners to do their thing all at one time. It's a larger form of trick called spinning the spinners. This course isn't really about fire safety. I mean, we're going to talk about that, but this course is more for people who might be planning to manage their own fire circle, whether it's in your backyard or a small gathering or even a larger event, like some of the things that PLF does. There are considerations that you need to think about when planning a fire circle and managing it. And I've done it a few times and I've learned a lot from people who have been doing it a lot longer than me. So everything that I'm going to be talking about tonight is all best practices that I've learned and that have been shown to me by what I call the wise masters. The best place to go for this information is going to be the Flow Arts Institute, or FAI. They have a fire safety course that you can take online that comes with a certificate. It's not perfect, but it's a great source of information. There's not a whole lot of like actual fire safety and fire performance certifications out there, but this one is there. It's got a lot of great information. There was a lot of thought put behind it, and I encourage everybody to go to their website. And if you're really serious about being a leader in the fire performance community, you should definitely invest some time and take that course. I would also encourage everyone to get your fire performers insurance and to think about permits and all of those things. Anytime you're doing a fire circle, you need to be aware of what the local fire code is, what the local regulations are. I've had to become very proficient in that so that I can talk with the local fire marshals and oftentimes found I know more than they do about the local fire code. And that has helped a lot of difficult conversations. So the first thing I'll recommend when you're planning a fire circle is to do your homework. What I'll do tonight is we'll talk a little bit about the considerations of a fire circle. And then I'm in my backyard, which is a fire circle. So I'll take you around and shoot to the different stations that I've set up and try to show you small examples of what you should be looking at and thinking about when you're planning your own circle. The first thing you want to do is start asking yourself some questions. The first one is, do I really want to manage a fire circle? Because it's a lot of work. It's extremely rewarding. But if it's at an event or something, it's you have to understand that this is your baby. You're responsible for the safety of a lot of people who are just trying to have a good time. And sometimes that means that your fun takes a little bit of a back seat. So if you're going to be a fire circle lead and a fire circle manager for an event, you need to understand that you need to be sober, you need to be there on time, you need to be professional, courteous, all that stuff above board. Um, but doing it and doing any type of service to your fellow artists in the fire community is extremely rewarding and fun and wonderful. And I would recommend it to anybody who has the itch. Other questions? How many spinners are there going to be? How many people are you inviting to this thing? Can the space hold it? Are you going to allow fire breathing? Is there enough room for large props like whips and rope darts? You never know what people are going to show up with, so you need to decide ahead of time what the space can manage, how many people and how many spinners it can manage at a time. Start asking yourself all of those questions beforehand. And hopefully by the end of this course or the end of what I'm talking about, you'll be able to answer those questions for yourself. All right, so now I'm going to shift into the anatomy of a fire circle. Think of it as an onion. You know, there's different layers to it. And if you address it right, it will bring you to tears. Some of the main pieces are the outer layer is the audience. You don't think of that as part of your fire circle, but it is. It is the outermost ring of your fire circle. And as the fire circle lead, you are responsible for the safety of the people in that audience who are watching your performers. That's something to consider. The fuel dump is probably the most important piece of the fire circle, in my opinion, because that's where the most danger can occur. That's where all your fuel is stored. That's where a lot of traffic is. And usually that's where people go to ask questions. It's kind of a waypoint for spinners. There's the line and the queue to get into the fire circle, which must be considered. If you don't think about that, then there's going to be people lined up all over the place. Everybody's got fueled props. Think about Transformers, where there's people just walking all over the place, walking through the line, and people have fuel props. It's a recipe for disaster if you don't think about traffic flow and where your line is going to be. The entrance to the fire circle from the fuel dump is called the valve. We'll go into a little bit more depth about that later. And there's the safety positions within the fire circle. Where do you position your safeties? We'll also talk about that. There is the actual fire circle. Is it a circle? Is it a square? Maybe a rhombus? Having talked to people who have played with different shapes of fire circles, they've determined that a circle is the best shape. Anything with hard corners will keep people from exploring the further outer edges. So if you really want a good space for people to spin and have a good time in, try to make it an actual circle. And then there's a green room. It's kind of an optional space, but I always try to have it. If you're a fire spinner, chances are you have tons of crap. And anytime you go to an event or go spin fire somewhere, you've got an extra bag or two. I personally have a bag with like 1 million props, and I need a place to put that. I need a place to put my stuff. You know, I can't spin in a spirit hood. I've got to have a safe place to drop this off where I know it's not going to get messed up and it's with trusted people. So try to etch out a safe green room space that's well lit. Maybe put up a sign up that says fire spinners only, so we can, you know, feel safe in putting our gear down somewhere, and then just having like a place to relax. That's not the line. If you can, put the green room section off a little space around the fire circle, and this is your chill space. You can put gear here, you can put props here, but you can also see the other fire spinners doing their thing. All right, so after discussing that, I'm going to try to walk around and show you some of these things and talk about the considerations that you need to have when setting this stuff up. And we'll start with, okay, it's cheesy, but it's the audience here. So you've got the fire circle needs to be demarcated in some way. I have found these light ropes are the best way to do it. They're pretty cheap. And it's very clear that, you know, audience stays on one side, fire spinners stay on the other. And it can easily be crossed, but it's understood that this is where the line is. And there should be some kind of dispersion, you know, like props fly out things happen, you need to keep some kind of distance, some safe distance for the audience away from the fire circle. The space is going to dictate a lot of that, but that that's something you just have to work out on the fly, depending on where you're at. Light is another extremely important item. When we're spinning fire, we want to see the bold, rich flames. We want to see how the fire looks when we're spinning it. So we think we want it to be as dark as it can possibly be. That's not true. You need to be able to see what you're doing. You need to be able to see what's around you. You need to be able to see the other spinners. You need to be able to see your props. When you throw them in the air, you want to be able to catch it. And for that, you need ambient light. So it's really good to have some portable light that maybe is battery powered, something like these. Or if your space doesn't have street lights or ambient light, please put that into consideration. And it's extremely important when you get to your fuel dump, because you need to have light to see what you're doing. Now let's talk about this a little bit. So here's my little line. We talked about the importance of traffic flow. A fire circle should have one entrance and multiple exits. So pretend we're the fire spinner. I'm walking up. There's someone here at the fuel dump, helps me fuel my prop. I come up to the valve. There'll be someone at the valve who says, yes, it's your turn to spin. Get out there and do your thing. And then I come out and spin fire. Woo, it's super fun. One entrance with multiple exits. Whenever the fire spinner's done, they can just bleed off into the audience, drop the prop, come safety, do whatever it is they need to do. But all of the incoming fueled props and spinners need to come out the same way. And then they go off and exit the opposite way. So think about that. You can use anything to delineate the line. Cones are always effective, caution tape, more light ropes, however you want to do it, but have enough room too, and understand how many fire spinners are going to be showing up to your event. If you've got 50 spinners, you need to have a line that can accommodate 50 spinners. Okay, so now let's talk about the fuel dump. Light, extremely important. Always try to have multiple forms of light so people can see what they're doing. Scissors. Why scissors? Fire props fray. The wicks fray, and those the little pieces of the wicks. Here's some right here. They come off and they can fly in people's faces and eyes and stuff. It's a minor safety hazard, but if you have some scissors at your fueling station, then whoever's manning your fuel dump and your fuel station can kind of look at those wicks and be like, hey, let me give you a quick trim real quick before you go out and hurt somebody. Think about what you want to keep your fuel in. So Burning Man started requiring these, which is it's a secondary container for your fuel. You have your primary container. I got a couple of the go-to items here. You can use an ammo can or a paint can. Ammo can's really good when you're on the go because it's self-sealing, watertight. They don't really splash, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to open and close every single time. So if you're doing like a large scale event with a lot of people at a party or something, I think it's more ideal to have a paint can. It's very simple. Keep it fueled, dip in and out. If it gets knocked over or something, you're in this secondary container here, so you don't get any spillage. If something happens and the fuel inside the fire can is ignited and it's burning, just take your lid, snuff it out. No big deal. Those are your options for gigs and things like that. When I'm on the move, I really like having the ammo can. But for stationary things, at large events with a lot of people, think about a can or a paint can. These are super cheap. You can get them at Ace Hardware for like $1.99. Another really good thing to have is a new product on the market. It's called the fuel funnel. You fuel your prop, dip your wicks in here, squeeze it, and it gets all your excess into the can. and it keeps you from splashing your excess or spitting on your friends when you're trying to spin. If you're looking to invest in something that is a product developed by the fire community for the fire community, look into the fuel funnel. Gloves are always good to have. You can help. Sometimes you have like big wicks, like someone's got poi or something. If you got the gloves on, you can squeeze it out, but fuel funnel kind of takes the place of that. I always like having a spray bottle up front, right before the fire spinner goes out. You know, like someone like me, I got long hair. It's nice to spray my hair down so that it catches on fire less. It does happen. Everybody singes their hair, but having the water bottle is just a nice touch. You have to have one of these. I mean, and you need to keep it here at the fuel depot, because this is where all your fuel is. I usually like store the extra cans under here, because this is where the potential for the most where the accidents can happen. You want at least one of these around here at all times. You know, you want to check it, make sure it's fully charged, make sure it's less than 6 years old. 2019, yes. And I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll see if I can focus in on it a little bit. But oh, where is it? Oh, it's the dry chemical fire extinguisher. The classification 2A10BC. Yeah, there it is. Okay, this is the one you want. This is the one that will put out a fuel fire. This is the one that the DC fire marshals look for. This is one the National Park Service look for when we're doing catharsis on the mall. This is the one you want. Make sure you have one. If you're doing any kind of fire, anything with fuel, make sure you have one of these. And also trash. I didn't put a trash bag here, but I don't think we need it. But if you're doing a big fire circle and you're going through can after can, they pile up and it can be kind of just a walking hazard. So put some have some trash bags on hand to put things in, like put all your empties in. Okay, fuel dump. You go through the line and you come up to the valve, the entrance to your fire circle. All right. The valve is what I always like to do is have one person here. This is what FAI, the Flow Arts Institutes, they do the same thing with their fire circles. They have one person here that says when you can spin and when you can't. They're watching the fire circle to see who's out there, how many spinners are there, how much space is available. And they're also looking at who's out there with what props. Is there 5 contact stabs out there? That's going to eat up a lot of space really quick. But if there's like 2 people spinning poi and someone comes out with palm torches, you know, they'll funnel them into the right spot. And they're kind of like, if the fire circle lead is the general, the valve is kind of like the lieutenant. Okay, so you want someone who's done this a little bit, and you know we can talk about those actual positions later. And okay, actual fire circle, we talked about the need for that to be in a circle. My backyard is not a circle. That's okay. Not many backyards are, but I danced a little circle into it, so I guess that counts. All right, and green room. You know, where my whole backyard's a green room. That's fine. All right. Let's see if I can... Okay, and I'm back. Another thing that you should really be considerate of is how are your fire spinners lighting? If you have a whole bunch of people who are constantly going out and there's one lighter between 20 spinners, like that's a huge pain in the ass. So I recommend investing in something small, some kind of lantern that will, you know, give you some fire that you can light off of. It's also, you know, fun to light off of cool stuff. You can get these from Gora, Gora.hu, really great fire prop and performance company. You could also get a cheesy little citronella candle thing from Walmart. You know, that does the trick. Now the PLF fire sculptures, those are really awesome to light off of. Anytime we've had those in the fire circle, you walk out and light off those. Build you some of those. Talk to Bowman, he'll help you out. All right, let's talk about some of the different positions. Now, again, I'm talking about larger fire circle management. The larger the circle, the more people you're going to have helping you out. And knowing the fire community, usually everybody's down for it. Everybody likes volunteering. Depending on the event, you can keep the volunteer shifts down. It's a way to get your friends into the event and participate, be part of it, and also have people you know who are trustworthy and experienced to help keep an eye on things and to keep things running. You want the fire circle to run smoothly. You want it to have a high tempo, but you want it to be safe too. You know, there's we've had some circles that we've gotten like 50 people who show up and want to spin in the sunset and chill circle, which was way more than I thought we'd ever get. And it was a lot, and to manage that and make the best use of your time, so that everybody's not constantly just sitting in the line waiting to spin, and after a 4-hour event they get to spin twice. That's no fun. That's frustrating. You want that thing to go. So you need to engage some volunteers. So now I want to talk a little bit about that. With your fire circle, you're the fire circle lead. Depending on the length of the event, you may need to do that in shifts. You may need to split that up with somebody. But that person, they are the overarching general of the fire circle, kind of keeping an eye on everything. You can walk around, talk to the safeties, see if they need anything. Make sure the fuel dump is good. You're just there kind of watching everything. And if people have questions, they come to you, but you don't have to be in a fixed spot. It would be helpful if whoever the fire circle lead has their insurance, they have their safety certification, and ideally have been to a flow fest, like the ones that FAI do, that have these really large fire circles that will go for like 8 to 12 hours long. Going to those events, seeing how they do those things are invaluable to building the skill of fire circle management. And it's just super fun. It's just super fun. Once we're able to do these things again, if you've never been to a flow fest, please go. Talk to me, come with me, it'll be awesome. The fuel dump. This is usually 1 to 2 people. For sunset and chill, it would be like a 4-hour event. So I would break that up into 1 30-minute shift per person. It's helpful to have someone on the other side of the fuel dump helping people get fueled. If you just have like a paint can on the ground, that can be a lot, you know. Like, let's be honest, some people are in various states of sobriety, and if you just have like a paint can on the ground, that can cause some issues. So if you have like a table set up and one person whose job it is for just a short period of time, like 30 minutes, to just sit there and make sure everybody gets fueled and they're safe, and at the same time, it's also a check. You know, if you're the fuel dump, you're talking to people, kind of looking at them. Do they smell like booze? Are they stumbling around? They don't get to spin. Tell your fire circle lead, tell the valve, this person's being weird. We can't have them spin right now. Let the fire circle lead manage that and take care of it. But if you have someone in the fuel dump who's been semi-trained and coached and has done this before, then they'll kind of do that on their own. It's also a check for clothes, to make sure people are wearing the right flame retardant materials. You know, like anything that has a lot of plastic in it, non-natural fibers, can melt, and it can melt into your skin. It can be a really nasty burn. A couple years ago at, I think it was at PEX, there was a guy had some weird sleeves on, like really burned his hands bad, because and he was a good fire spitter, but he wore something weird and he got himself hurt. But it was the fire safeties should never let him fueled. The fire circle leads should never have let him spin. And I'm not trying to air anybody's dirty laundry here, but those are the types of safeguards that we need to have in place to keep those things from happening. Fuel dump. Yes, we talked about all that here. Valve is your second check. This is the last check before you actually go out into the fire circle. this is the person who, looks at the circle, says, is there space? They also do the review. They look like, is the person's props all jacked up? Does it look like MacGyver made them in prison? They may not be safe to spin around a bunch of people. Said, hey, maybe don't use that ratchet ass set of poi. Here's my poi. You can borrow them, play with them, bring them back. They're like, there's ways we could do this without hurting anybody's feelings. But an experienced spinner at Valve is very important because they'll do that. They'll look and they can make the calls to keep people safe. And it's also, again, traffic flow. If there's only one person out there and you have 20 people in line who are waiting to spin fire, what are you waiting on? You need someone in the Valve to show people out there and get them spinning. The audience wants to see people spin fire. The spinners want to get out there. But let's make use of the space to its maximum potential. And you need people to drive that. That's part of the Valve's job. And then there's the safeties. One of those questions you need to ask yourself when you're planning your fire circle is, what is your approach to safeties? Wherever it is, what is your safety scheme? Now, there's different ways to do it. There is the fixed volunteer. For the FAI festivals, they have really large fire circles, and it'll go for 8 to 12 hours. So they have fixed volunteer positions staggered around the fire circle, and they make people sign up ahead of time. And if there's no one signed up for a slot, then they'll turn everything off. No spinning until people sign up to be safeties. Everybody always does it. Everybody's safeties. It's actually kind of fun because you can't spin fire for 12 hours straight. I've tried. Like, it's kind of fun to sit in a safety shift, hold a blanket, and help keep your friends safe, and just watch for a little while. People will come around and say, hey, you need to go use the bathroom. Do you want to go burn real quick? People take care of you. But that's one way, fixed safety volunteers. Now, for Sunset and Chill, we use rotating safeties because we only have 4 hours. We don't want to have someone volunteer for a whole hour and just sit there in safety. We can all safety for each other. So what we do is everyone in the safety brief, which I'll talk about eventually, it is understood that after you spin, you do a safety shift. So go put your props down, get a drink of water, make sure your head's clear, and then go grab the blanket from one of the other safeties and protect your friends for a little while. In a rotating safety experience, you maybe sit there for 5 minutes at the most before someone comes along and takes it from you. So again, it's a participatory method, and it just keeps things rolling. But what method you choose is going to depend on your event, your space, what you're trying to do, how many people are going to be there, etc. Okay, that's kind of it for the staff. You set those up ahead of time if your event calls for it. What Sunset and Chill usually does is we'll give free entry to our volunteers who take shifts. And that's been a great method. Everybody likes doing it. Everybody loves participating, and we've been really lucky to have everybody jump in and take some of the responsibility and help out so that it can be fun for everybody. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the conduct of the fire circle through the evening of the event. The first thing is, that I mentioned, is the safety brief. Yes, this is a time to make sure that people know how to be a fire safety, but that's not the primary piece of it. A safety brief is for your safety. It is a brief so that you know how to be safe while you're doing this. So you want to tell them how this fire circle works. Show them how the line works. You have to, if you have all the people who are going to be spinning, if you're giving a safety brief, point to it. This is the entrance. This is where you go in. That's the fuel dump. This is what happens at the fuel dump. That's the valve. Unless the person at the valve tells you can spin, you can't spin. If you want to spin with something weird, like a unicycle, we've had it. Talk to the valve. Get there okay first. If you want to spin with a buddy and do some weird choreo thing, talk to the valve first to make sure that you have the space that you need. Make sure that everybody understands, if you're doing a rotating safety scheme, make sure they understand that they have to safety if they're going to spin. If you have a problem with holding a blanket for your fellow fire spinners, then let's have a talk about that. Why is that? Maybe some people don't feel comfortable with it, and maybe we can just talk about it. And for this person, they just want to sit out and watch, and maybe next time they'll pick up safetying when they're more comfortable with all the fire spinning. That's okay. That's fine. This is your first fire circle and you don't feel comfortable being responsible in case someone bursts into flames. That's okay. We can talk about that. But give the person the knowledge, show them the duty, talk to them about it, and give them the lessons. And maybe next time they'll feel safe enough to join in and be a safety. Safety priority. I'm not going to go through, what being a fire safety means and how to put people out and everything. I feel like that is something, if we ever get back to doing events, it will be done, I promise. But I will talk a little bit about something that Flow Arts Institute came up with, and it's a priority of safety. When you're safetying, what all are the things that you're responsible for? And they came up with a four-tiered approach to being a fire safety. And it's your concerns are the audience first, the venue second, performer third, and the tools and props fourth and last. I know that sounds kind of weird, right? Like, you're the fire safety. You're supposed to be watching the performer, and if the performer catches on fire, you go help them. That's, in reality, that's not the best way to do this. The performer themselves is the person who is originally responsible for their safety by, nature of being sober and safe, wearing the right materials, using safe props, and understanding how to handle a tense situation when you're out there spinning. If a sleeve or shirt or something catches on fire, you should be able to address that yourself first. The fire safety needs to call attention to the person and let them know that there's something that they need to address. So the fire safety would tell the performer, right leg, something like that, wherever the fire is, and give them the chance to address it themselves. All you have to do is blow on it, take your hand, wipe it out, and just smush out the oxygen and cut off the chemical reaction. Just wipe it out. That's all they have to do, usually. Sometimes it's more intense. Some people's hair catch on fire. If someone's fire breathing, their face and facial hair can catch on fire. That's different. That's when this fire safety needs to go in and approach the performer. But that's not always necessary. If you're in a big fire circle with 10, 20 people spitting fire, a safety running across the field isn't always the best thing to occur. That can cause more problems than it fixes. So first thing you should do is let the performer know and give them the chance to extinguish themselves. As a safety, you need to worry about the audience. You need to be watching in case there's a prop or a wick or something go flying into the audience. If it does, you're the one holding the duvetine. You're the one holding the safety blanket. You need to run out there, grab that thing, put it out, get it away, make sure that the audience isn't hurt, make sure that the venue isn't catching on fire, and then you have a larger structural issue that you have to worry about. And the performer is third. Sometimes you got to go in and you got to put the performer out, or their ploy gets tangled up and you need to go put their prop out so that they can get untangled or something. Any number of things can happen. Every now and then you do need to go in, but make sure that you only go in when it's absolutely necessary. And the last piece is tools and props. Sometimes performers will get done, I've extinguished my prop and I'm just going to walk off, and they don't realize one of their wicks is still on, and they go walking around into an audience full of people, and they still have a lit wick. So keep an eye on the props. Make sure that the props are out. They're hot when they first come off too. Make sure they're not, if there's something you can do to keep them from bumping the props into people's faces, like, these are the things that should be on the mind of a safety. All the bad things that can happen, because the fire spinner, as you know, you're spinning fire. You're worried about your flow state. The fire itself kind of creates a bit of a tunnel vision, especially if it's dark. You really can't see anything outside of your bubble. So the performer depends on the safeties and the people around them to let them know what they can't see. I think I've touched on traffic flow a little bit, but I'll harp on it even more. It's, if you want a high tempo, fun fire circle, keep traffic flow in mind in your design of the circle. Make sure everybody knows where the entrance is, have it demarcated, and make sure that people understand how to exit safely. It's a note here. I wanted to hit it. Make sure you consider your traffic flow. More about safeties. How many safeties do you have at your event? How many safeties do you need? Flow Arts Institute recommends a ratio of 1 safety per 2 spinners. I think that's more than adequate. If you go beyond that, it starts to be a stretch. You know, like how many people can you watch at one time? How many problems can you fix at one time? So what we would have like usually a fire circle of 6 to 7 for sunset and chill, depending on the size of props and how much room people were taking up. Usually it was at 6, and we always had 3 safeties on top of the valve, the fuel dump, and the fire circle lead. We talked about the fixed safety volunteers, rotating safeties. In your safety brief, when you're talking to your safeties, you know, there's a lot of information to put into people's heads, but say it over and over again. You know, you talk about the right way to put props out. There are tons of videos on YouTube that talk about how to put out each prop. Matrix Fire Blankets have put out a video series that's really good that shows you how to address almost any kind of prop that you can encounter. So if you're getting serious into this, I encourage you to avail yourself of those videos and understand what the best methods are to put out all these different props. Because you have a lot of different things. There are whips, jump ropes, various forms of dragon stabs, and all kinds of stabs. That's knowledge that you should have, that you should be able to impart in your safety briefs. But one of the most important things you need to drill into the heads of the people who are going to be safetying is be professional and focus when you're sitting in that safety spot, or if you're the one holding that blanket. So no getting on your phone, I mean, maybe someone's doing something super awesome, but it's not your job to take videos of it right now. It's your job to make sure they don't hurt themselves or anybody else. I guarantee there's somebody else in the audience who is taking pictures or video, or hopefully. Be professional, sit there and just focus on the fire circle for that period of time that you've agreed to be a safety. People may come up to you and want to chat with you and show you the picture they just took of you that was super awesome. Just wait a few minutes. Just wait a few minutes and focus on the fire circle and be a safety, because the very second you trail off or look at your phone to check your Insta, whatever, is the second that someone's face catches on fire, or their hands, or someone can really get seriously hurt. Like the very second you look away, that's right when something bad's going to happen. So just stay professional and stay focused, and try to drill that into people's minds if they're going to be spinning, performing, and being safeties. Fire breathing. Fire breathing is super awesome. It's amazing, and there's some wonderful fire breathers in the fire community out here between DC, Baltimore, Virginia. Like, I love it, and it is very dangerous, and there are certain techniques to safetying for a fire breather. So if someone's going to breathe fire, make sure that each one of them has their own safety, and that safety is familiar with fire breathing safety techniques. There's a method for when you're safetying for a fire breather. You wipe down over their face. Simple things like that. Just make sure that if they're fire breathing, they have someone there to look out for them. and be cognizant of when they go out and what your ground is. If you're on a basketball court and the first people in your fire circle are a bunch of fire breathers, that basketball court is going to be a slippery mess inside of 2 minutes, because fire breathing is just spitting. It's, you know, they're just spitting fuel. It's lamp oil. It's oily. It's slippery. It's probably at night, so it's a little cold, and they're just spitting this shit all over the place, and it can make the ground really slippery really fast. If it's something like grass or something, maybe it's not so bad, but you want to have like a separate space for the fire breathers to do their thing. If you are on concrete, what we would always do for sunset and chill is like the last 30 minutes, that's when the fire breathers get to go out and do their thing, because it's the last 30 minutes, the event ends, and it's okay if there's a big mess on the floor. But if you do it right in the beginning, then people can be slipping and sliding all over the place. It just creates a hazard that can be avoided. So really think about fire breathing. I touched a little bit on weird stuff, but the best part of fire circles are the weird stuff that you can't even begin to prepare for. There's always going to be someone coming out with some weird ass thing, like a unicycle. Like we were at Catharsis on the National Mall, and 3 people come up with fire fans and unicycles, and they're like, "Hey, we want to do fire unicycle spinning," and it wasn't the best idea. We let one go at a time. At another event, we let them all 3 do their weird circle circus thing, but those things come up, so be prepared for it and talk to them. If someone's going out with something weird, just have the conversation with them, alert the safeties that something strange is about to happen. Occasionally, we have a wonderful artist who does fired bubbles. That's the type of thing everybody should just be a little bit ready for. You know, it's different, so the safeties need to reorient their mental outlook to accommodate for that. So all the wonderful, weird variations of fire art expression can come out in your fire circle, and just mentally be prepared for it. Ask the questions that you need to ask for you to be comfortable for that person to go out there, because you're the one who is responsible for the safety of the performers, of the audience, of the venue, and you want to be able to do this again. And if somebody comes out with something weird and you're just like, yeah, get out there, go have fun, and something bad happens, it's going to reflect on the entire fire community. One bad night for the fire community is going to be extremely hard for all of us to live down. This is still a very new thing, and thanks to COVID, we don't get to do it at all, but eventually we want to be able to do it again. I don't know if I necessarily want it to go mainstream, but I want to be able to go to a venue and say, I want to have fire spinners here, and not have people freak out. And that comes from everybody who does this acting responsibly. So please keep that in mind when you're dealing with the weird stuff. Fire acro, that's the new big trend. make sure they have what they need to be safe. Make sure they're thinking through what they need to be to make sure that they are safe. Photographers, wonderful element to this. They get overzealous, and sometimes they can think that they can do whatever they want. They see the light rope, they see the separation between the audience, and they're like, I'm a photographer. I don't have to worry about that. I can walk around and take pictures all I want. That's not true. Do not let them do that. I have had some try to do that. Like, they think they got a cool camera, so they can go weaving, walking inside and out the fire circle. They cannot. A lot of these photographers are very skilled. They're all friends of the fire community. Try to give them a good spot. Etch out a little space. Move some civilians out of the way, and give your photographers a good, comfortable spot where they can shoot. Talk to them. Introduce them to the safeties, and be like, look, this is where you can go, but don't get in between the safeties and the performers. Most good fire photographers know that not to get in between the safeties and the performers. But have those conversations with them. Don't let them go rogue, but don't let them feel sidelined either. Fuel types. There's a ton of different fuel types out there, and you need to decide what you're going to let in your event. If you're the one who's hosting, you should be the one bringing the fuel, because you know that it's safe. You know where it came from. It's not some weird cheap thing that or kerosene that's gonna smell horrible or react in a way that you don't fully expect. So decide for yourself what kind of fuel you're gonna have. If fire breathers are gonna come, are they bringing their fuel? What are they using? Sometimes people do the colored flames. The green flames, to do that requires this really toxic mixture of boric acid. And if they want to bring that, they need to closely control that. We don't want to get that mixed up with paraffin or something that people are using for fire eating. People are doing fire eating with a fuel that has boric acid in it. It can really make someone sick. So be cognizant of the different fuel types that are at the fuel dump, who's using it, what containers it's in. If you've got some jar, a pickle jar of clear liquid, and you don't know what's in there, maybe put that somewhere safe, put it in a bin somewhere, and let someone else take that home. But maybe it doesn't need to be in your fire circle, you know? It's just, those are the types of chances I personally don't like to take. The other thing, one of the last things I was going to hit on was, I didn't talk about gear. Let me grab some. When you're talking about fire safety and blankets, you know, there's the black duvetines that are kind of was the industry standard for a long time, but you're not seeing those as much anymore. If you're going to have a fire circle, I recommend investing in some of these. Some of the Matrix fire safety blankets. They're really great. They just don't burn. They have this reflective strip on it. So when the safety's holding it, the fire spinners can see the shining, the glimmering off of the edge of it. Helps you identify where your safety is easier. That's another thing. You can even put a little light at all the safety points so that the spinners can easily find their safety if they need it. But I definitely recommend getting one of these Matrix fire safety blankets, one or a few. It's really cool. They let you put your own logo on it. You can toss it in the washing machine, and it comes out just fine. So it's an excellent product made by fire spinners for fire spinners. And there was something else I was gonna think. No, I think I got it all. I actually hit it all, and we're about 10 minutes early. I don't know if there are any questions. I don't know if there's even anybody watching this, but if there are questions, I'm happy to take them. If not, I thank you very much for your time and for listening to my spiel. George, can you hear me? Do we have anything? Really? Awesome. That's wonderful, man. Good to hear. Thanks again for having me. Awesome, man. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. Much appreciated. You too, buddy. Take care.